I don't know those parts of speech. Parts of speech. Hi guys, and welcome back to the mess that I call this channel. I am Snehoshri, and this is the video in which I'm going to talk about all the books that I've read recently. I read 6 books in total in the months of January, February, and March. Though, as a fact, I didn't read any books in March. I just read 6 books in January and February, and those are the books that I'm going to talk about. The first book that I read in January was Pretty Girls by Karin. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty good book. It is a thriller. It revolves around a woman whose husband gets murdered, and she investigates into his murder and into crimes, both present and crimes that had happened in the past, which are related to her and her family, and that's how the story goes. I know I don't do a great job in explaining the books because I always tend to spoil it, so I'm trying really hard not to give off any detail at all. So sorry for that. Um, this book was good. I'm gonna say it was good because I genuinely enjoyed reading it, but at the same time, it had a few elements which I just did not like. Like, no, those are like big fat no's. But there were things that I liked. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I genuinely liked the idea of it, and I liked the way all these characters were interrelated and how the story panned out. I liked the characters in general. I liked the dynamics that they had in between. I liked the relationships that the characters had. And I also loved some of the character arcs and the character developments in the book. Really like that. Other than the character, I think I liked the way the story was written. So there were parts in which it was telling you about the current situation, but between those, there were these letters from her dad, and I really loved those letters. I genuinely enjoyed it, and I found that a really nice touch. The first thing that I did not like about it is the racist element. One of the characters is pretty racist, and I will say that a character is allowed to be a racist because there are people in real life who are racist, and it isn't something unheard of. But at the same time, I think if you're an author, it is kind of like your duty, or like as an author, you should, you know, reprimand that character or like call them out later in the book. It shouldn't be left out. Uh, it shouldn't be justified in the book at least. Uh, so that was the problem, and it wasn't just that the character was racist. Even the author's writing felt a little racist a lot of times, which did not float my boat. um, the other thing that I did not like about this book was the pacing. I found the first 100 pages to be very slow, and the next 300, 400 pages to just go so quickly. Last thing that I did not like, actually, not that I didn't like not that I didn't like the concept of the book, but it's a thought that it's like you can think about it, you can discuss about this. Is that if you remove all the physical violence and the gore from this book, the story, the actual plot itself does not hold a lot. That it couldn't be a thriller if you removed all the physical violence from it, which I believed, like I always thought that thrillers, are supposed to be that intriguing that like even if you don't have violence and people being hurt every 5 pages, it's still interesting and the reader is still interested in reading it. Yeah. The second book that I read in January was the Bromance book club by Lyssa Adams. This was a book suggested to me by one of my friends, and again, I kind of enjoy reading this, but in books, I don't particularly read books from the romance genre. Not that I have anything against that, I just don't read it. Um, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I genuinely enjoyed reading it, and not because it was good or I liked the characters or the writing was good or the romantic plot was actually good. It was so bad, I just kept on laughing as I read the book. So, this book, the Romance Book Club, is about Gavin and Thea. Gavin is a baseball player and he's currently separated from his wife, uh, and he wants to get back with her. So, his other teammates introduce him to this book club, which essentially take the help of books to manage their relationships outside, like to manage all their relationships. And that is how we come to the book club, and that is how the story progresses. Gavin tries to woo and make Thea fall in love with him again. Honestly, this book is okay. It's a nice light read. You might enjoy it, you might not. The one thing that really I felt was very odd was that the writing was very clunky. Like it felt very 13-year-old Wattpad fanfiction kinda. And as someone who has read a lot of Wattpad fanfiction, a lot of AO3 fanfiction, a lot of fanfiction.net, like from the time I was like 11, 12, like I've been reading smut since then. And I know, like, even there you can find good smut, you can find good stuff. And I just thought that on a published book it would be better. But no, 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 no. This was funny. And to give you an example, I will now say a line which was actually published. Then he winked, and boom, her nipples hardened. What is the appropriate reaction to this? Like, as a reader, what am I supposed to think after reading that? I was laughing throughout reading this book, which did not help because I was in a class when I was reading this book. That was the Bromance Book Club. If I didn't already mention, I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I will kind of recommend you to read it. It's a fun read. If you want to, you can go ahead and read it. Uh, but yeah. So I think I was on the third, fourth, fifth book, which is Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. These books are from the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I gave all 3 books 3 out of 5 star. These books follow the story of Elena as she discovers something and is thrown into a whole world of magic. And the story essentially follows her journey and adventures with other characters along the way. I don't know what I feel about these books. They were so average. Like, so average. Nothing was extremely bad about it, whereas I could also not find anything extremely good about it. It was just meh. If we talk about the writing, I actually was not that troubled, or like I did not dislike the writing that much. It was, all in all, again, it was average. I didn't feel that it was bad, but it wasn't exceptionally good as well. If we were to talk about the setting and the world building, I think Leigh Bardugo has really done that well. I love the magic system, I love the world building, love the different countries, provinces that she has put in it, and all in all, the general concept, I find that to be really good. Really appreciate the skill and the talent that she has put in it. To come to my favorite part of the trilogy is the characters. There are 3 characters which I absolutely love, which is Genya, Nikolai, and Zoya. They are just so pure and so nice. I would hurt anyone for them. I actually like these characters a lot. I love their development. I love their entire, just like their personalities, their dialogues, everything. Those characters were very well rounded. If we talk about the villain, Darkling, I actually genuinely liked him in the first and second books. Yes, I know he was supposed to be the villain. Um, Disclaimer, I like the villains more than the heroes sometimes. I genuinely liked him. I understand his uh, reasons for manipulating Alina, and honestly, good job. One thing that I did not like about the Darkling was that in the first two books, his character is fleshed out and he's got a certain personality to him, which when it comes to the third book, I I find it very uncharacteristic for him at least. I read all three of these books in a span of 3 days, so I have no clear demarcation of which event happened in which book. And I think that is one of the main reasons why I feel like Darkling was very out of character in the third book. I mean, it just, I didn't find him to be Darkling. He was like a very weak, withered old version of him. If you are wondering why I'm not talking about the main characters, Alina and Mal, it's because they need to have personality to be talked about. I was going to call Alina as plain and as bland as bread, but then I realized that that would be a disrespect to bread, because even bread has more personality than Alina and Mal put together. Like, even a pigeon has more personality than Alina. Literally, a pigeon. If you guys didn't know, I genuinely did not like those characters. I did not understand why they were together. I did not understand why they exist. I mean, I kind of understood why she existed, but like, I did not understand why in the world would she do what she did, or why in the world would she not do some things, and why in the world did Leigh Bardugo not give her any brains. I know it is common for every young adult protagonist who is a white bland bitch to not know what's going on at any point of time. Even when she's like done with everything, she has won, she still doesn't know what's going on. But like, this was too much. She didn't know shit about what was going on. Like, it was going on, it was going good. I liked the entire series. Then it came to the third book and I'm like, why would you do these? Like, Leigh Bardugo's choices in the third books, I just really question it. But before I start yelling, let's move on to the sixth and the last book that I read in the month of February. This was a buddy read with Claudio from Claudio Can't Read. The Secret History by Donna Tartt is a story of Richard who moves from LA to go to Vermont to study in Hampton College. He goes there to originally study something else, but ends up joining a classics Greek Greek program. He joins something Greek, and he joins it because of because of the mysterious instructor and the classmates that he's very intrigued by, and the story goes on from there. I generally really liked this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I love the writing style, I love the characters, I love the aesthetics, I love the settings of that book, everything. Okay, like everything. I don't know those parts of speech. Okay, to talk about the writing style of the book, Donna Tartt's writing style is very descriptive, and like, it's flowy, it's beautiful, but at the same time, I loved it. It wasn't overly descriptive, it wasn't too crisp as well. It was just like the perfect amount, because I have read books which go on describing stuff on and use so many difficult words and so many relations and adjectives and examples that by the end of it, I am so confused as to what they're explaining. Like, is it a rat? Is it a cloud? Is it my great aunt? I don't know. So I really appreciated that about this book. Like, it still did give you beautiful descriptions of the places and beautiful descriptions of the characters. At the same time, you did not get lost in it. Okay, if we talk about the characters in the book, again, I absolutely loved the clique in it. I loved the way the characters, the thought processes of the characters. I loved the main protagonist's thought process, and in general, I just loved how they were dealt with and how they all form, like their entire journey. I absolutely adored that. The only reason I did not give this a 5 out of 5 stars is the ending. Okay, I did not particularly dislike the ending, and I did not particularly like the ending as well. I was, I think, very confused by it, and I think that's probably the fault. That's probably my fault and my brain's fault for not understanding what she wanted to do with it. But I felt like the last 50 pages are very rushed. Yeah, I could go on about this book for an hour, and Lord knows, nor do I have the power to listen to my voice, nor do you guys deserve it. And that wraps up all the books that I have read in the month of January and February. I did not read a single book in March because but if you guys did like this video, then please comment if you've read the books, if you like the books, anything. Like, just let's talk. Like, subscribe. I feel very awkward doing this. I am sorry. Bye. You're free to unsubscribe after that. You're genuinely free to unsubscribe after that.